him out. 2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is one back. Walk the ball. Let's Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. We're back. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined by Matt Moreno. And Matt, when we teased our earlier video, I said, are the Dodgers going to add a bat? And Joey Gallo was one of the names I mentioned. Joey Gallo was the only name I mentioned that got negative responses. Sure enough, within the hour, Joey Gallo comes to the Dodgers in exchange for prospect Clayton Beeter. This is a polarizing move. Your immediate reaction to Gallo coming to the Dodgers was?
Why? And I still sort of feel that way. I mean, then if you take a step back, you can kind of see potentially the reasons for it, but I still don't understand. I know we'll get into it. I think what the biggest hurdle that
make the case if you were going to try and defend this signing, where would you start this acquisition?
I guess he has proven that he can hit a lot of home runs and hit for power, and the Dodgers don't necessarily have that from the left side right now. Obviously, Bellinger's season, his past few seasons have been what they are, and we've discussed that. His value is clearly defensively. Max Muncy is another that we've touched on, and he hasn't necessarily come around. I know he hit a home run Monday night against the Giants, but he's not himself, and I think a lot of that is due to his UCL injury. So I guess Gallo gives you some upside there, but he's struggling too. He's not tearing the cover off the ball.
Yeah, no, you look at his numbers and, I joked pessimistic me versus optimistic me. Optimistic me said this is a guy who had an OPS of about 809 last season with 38 home runs. Pessimistic me is he hasn't batted over 200 since 2019. His weighted runs created plus is right in line with Muncy and Bellinger. And so a lot of people are saying, we already have Bellinger. We already have Muncy. Why do we need a third guy? A brief housekeeping note. Clayton Beeter is the guy going in exchange. Looking at our friend Justin Lorber, his preseason rankings, Beeter was the number 18 prospect for the Dodgers in the organization. This is a guy who was a second-round pick just a couple of years ago. But if you look at his numbers, he has not had success at Double-A this season. 5.75 ERA. And probably more concerning is it seems to be becoming more and more clear that he will not be a starter long-term. He's got 16 starts and 2 relief appearances for a total of 51 innings. So you do the math on that. We're talking about a 3-inning average. The stuff is good. The results have not been. He's a little bit older, having come out of college, and he's probably a reliever long term. So the Dodgers move him in exchange for Gallo, who's got just this year left on his contract. You look at Joey Gallo's StatCast numbers. This is where I find it to be the most interesting. He's in the first percentile for whiff rate, the first percentile for strikeout rate, the first percentile for expected batting average. So we're talking the worst in the league. On the flip side, hard hit percentage, 90th percentile, barrel percentage, 98th percentile, walk percentage, 97th percentile. And so it's a very bizarre StatCast to see all of those things sort of lining up with one another. And we'll see sort of how this ends up shaking out if you're the Dodgers. But I guess the follow-up question is this it? We know they were interested in a bat, but is Joey Gallo the guy? Because we've already talked about the Dodgers, it felt like already had too many bench players for the number of bench spots they have. Again, you get 9 guys in a starting lineup, and you figure 3 or 4 guys on a bench, depending on how you shake out your roster. We know Austin Barnes is going to be one of those. When Chris Taylor comes back, if you plug him into the starting lineup, then that means you've got, if you put him in left field and Max Muncy is your DH, which I think is up for debate, now you've got Gallo, you've got Lamb, you've got Trace Thompson, you've got Edwin Rios, all these guys competing for 2 or 3 spots. So I don't see how the Dodgers fit all of these guys onto the same roster. Do you?
No, not at all. And that's what makes me is there then another trade that they're working on where they're going to send a position player out? Because as it stands right now, I guess it works. And another thing too is, for Gallo to, let's say this trade gets finalized, obviously today, and he joins the team maybe tomorrow. James Outman, my guess, is the one who's getting optioned right away. And yeah. Fine. It's only been 2 games, 2 starts. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say he's, going to be this superstar player, but he's doing well right now. He's going right. So why, is adding Joey Gallo that much of an upside or difference than having what James Outman is doing right now? And in that same breath, the Dodgers very much are making moves for October, right? Even though the Padres did get are on the verge of getting Juan Soto and Josh Bell. Like the division, if it would take an epic collapse for the Dodgers.
Yep.
But yeah, then circling back to your point, I mean, Max Muncy, what his trade value, I can't imagine is very high. Like same thing with Cody Bellinger.
Yeah,
and
no
so.
chance.
Once Chris Taylor needs to come back, once Edwin Rios needs to come back, unless for whatever reason they're just going to keep Rios in AAA for the rest of the year, which I know you have brought up as a way, maybe they would buy some time with in terms of roster decisions.
Yeah.
I would have expected before this trade for Gallo that Rios would have been in the postseason picture, but maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jake Lamb is probably the more comparable sort of apples to apples guy. Lamb's been pretty good. We're talking about a guy who hits from the left-hand side. Gallo, look, defensive metrics are impossible to gauge as well as gold gloves. Gallo has won 2 gold gloves in a row in the outfield. That doesn't mean he's Mookie Betts or Cody Bellinger out there, but it does mean you could say he's competent. Last season, 6 outs above average as a right fielder. This year, he's -4 as a left fielder. So, take it all with a grain of salt, but there's probably some upside defensively. He's probably the best left fielder that they've got, depending on what you think of Chris Taylor. If you throw him out there, he's at least in the mix to be competent defensively. I'm not sure they trust Jake Lamb out in left field, for example, but it sure does feel like they're looking at Muncy and Gallo and Bellinger and basically saying, can we get one of you guys to figure it out in the next 3 months? Because if one of you guys figures it out, we're going to be okay. It's a bet on player development. It's a bet on scouting. It's a bet that we can untap something in Joey Gallo that the Yankees were not able to, because he was great until he got to New York, and then it's been terrible in basically 500 at bats since. So we'll see. Maybe the Dodgers aren't done. Maybe there's a relief pitcher, a starting pitcher still out there that the Dodgers are going to go after, to be determined. That's Matt Moreno. My name is Jeff Spiegel. As always, make sure you're subscribed, ring the notification bell here. As we said earlier, 4 o'clock today, live show breaking down everything that happened and maybe potentially everything that didn't happen from the Dodgers perspective. So join us here live on YouTube, 4 p.m. We appreciate you as always. Check out DodgerBlue.com. We'll have a full write-up on the Joey Gallo move. DodgerBlue1958 on social media everywhere. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time.